All right, so I want to take you to some artistic kind of conversation.
Oh, you want me to perform?
Not really.
Okay.
I'll show you what I want to do.
Okay.
So I want to share with you a poem here. First, you're going to tell me if you remember it. Yeah. So this is a poem by Henry Longfellow. And I just picked one of the stanzas. It says, "Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today."
Yeah.
You remember that point?
Very well. And I really like Henry Longfellow.
Yes.
Because what he tries to say, actually, especially in that poem, he tries to say that don't succumb to fate. I'm sure you've interacted with people who say, you know, I was born up in, I was born and brought up in the slum, and you see poverty-related problem. That story has been told. The question is, what are you doing? I think that's a more exciting story. It's not your situation of luck. It's what have you done to get out of that situation. So I think it's boring, it's disheartening to listen to stories of, you know, I went through this, I'm going through this, and you know, the issue, what we want to hear more is what are you doing? And I think that is what Henry Longfellow tries to tell us, that don't just accept destiny.
Yes.
Shape your own destiny, and we have the power to shape our own destiny. We've heard of stories from you know, grass to grace. We've heard of stories of someone who was born in the slum, but now he's running an organization. Those people did something. I normally say dream, determination and discipline. And it could be a lot more. What did they do to get out of that situation?
Wow.
And that, again, Henry Longfellow says you need to take action.
Yes.
We are not responsible for where we are coming from sometimes. I am not responsible for being born and brought up in Korogosho.
Yes.
That is my parents. But truly, I am responsible for the future. Where I'm heading and where I will be in the future, it's my responsibility.
Wow.
But for me to get there, I need to take action. And so we must take action for the future that we want. That future that we desire and aspire for requires that you take a certain action. And so whether it is change that you want to see, take action. Whether it is progress you want to make, take action. So you have to do something. That is what Henry Longfellow challenges us to do.
How you inspirationally talk about it makes me understand why you chose it when you did your first TED Talk. Actually, you picked the last two lines, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today.
Correct.
Now, let's get into politics. And this is politics of the government and the civil society space. So we've had like CSOs being attacked in the recent past after the, you know, I don't want to call them even the anti-government protesters or even the Gen Zs. These are simply citizens who wanted the government to be accountable. And in response, the government felt that in no way can this multitude of young people organize themselves to really put the pressure on the government in this manner, because they are not organized in any ethnic way. There's no partisan games being played here. These are simply guys who are saying enough is enough, and we have to make our leaders accountable. Now, there is a danger in attacking the CSO space, because if you look at even the pre-colonial era, not really pre-colonial era, like pre-independence and even post-independence, the CSO has played a bigger role in even developing the democracies of many African states, even globally. I don't want to put it in Africa only. No, it's something that is globally, nations have benefited from the struggles, the efforts of the CSOs. So how does this, where's the risk in antagonizing the CSO space and probably trying to shrink that space further?
I think one is to appreciate that civil society organizations have a very important role in a democracy and in any society. And there are multiple examples of within and outside of the important role that civil society have have played in terms of creating awareness,
Yeah.
in terms of highlighting issues, in terms of engaging in development work, in terms helping the society to make progress. Civil society have done amazing work. It is important also for government to realize that they are inadequate, that they cannot do everything. You know, time has changed where government used to be the ones providing water, doing this and this and that and that. They must realize that they need to partner with other agencies, other organizations, and one of them is civil society organization. So no government cannot operate alone. The challenges of our time are so humongous, so huge, it requires sort of partnerships like we are saying. Civil society is that partner. And we've seen, for example, where, for example, in some places there are no schools, civil society sometimes will come in and build schools. Where there are no health centers, civil society will come and build health centers. Where the society is not conscientized enough, civil society will move in. The other thing that is important to point out is that, you know, civil society are not necessarily in existence to make government happy. And they will never make government happy. This is why. Because civil society always, in most cases, step in to address the inadequacy of the government. No government wants that. You don't want someone to highlight things that you are not doing very well. For example, if civil society moves in and says so many, in a place like Korogosho, for example, we only have 2 public schools. And what does that mean? It means that civil society has moved in to build so many other schools. Government looks bad. It looks like, hey, government is not building schools, civil society is building schools. Where is government taking all the resources they are getting? I mean, you can't fault the civil society for doing that, because that is their role. They come in where government, in some cases, have failed. So government needs to appreciate that, that civil society will not always be their cheerleaders. They will not always be singing praise and worship for them. In some cases, they will make them very uncomfortable. And truly, that's the role of civil society, also to make government uncomfortable by making certain demands, saying, look, you need to address these issues. You cannot deal with people in this way and that way. And so government needs to appreciate that civil society will criticize you. They will challenge you sometimes. They will compliment you sometimes when you're doing well, but in most cases criticize and challenge you. And so I think government needs to find a way of cooperating, working and promoting civil society without seeing them as an enemy. Instead, they should see civil society as an ally. What has happened was quite unfortunate, and sorry to talk about it, but picking, first of all, demonizing civil society for what is obviously good work. There's nothing wrong with promotion of democratic ideals, if at all any civil society is doing it. Of course, within the prescribed role, the laws and all that. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that too. Just picking organizations without necessarily linking them to the protest and then trying to sort of create an impression that they're the ones who are supporting the protest is quite unfortunate. Even though the protest in itself is not a bad thing. Peaceful protest is a guaranteed right within the Constitution that we all need to promote.
It's actually a civic responsibility.
It's a civic responsibility. Violence is something else. That one no one supports. But peaceful protest is a good thing. We need people to keep challenging the government. We cannot all be seated somewhere and praising the government. We need to challenge the government, tell them areas that are not doing right, support them if they're doing something right, and sometimes criticize them if you see they're doing something wrong. I think government that is open to challenge, to constructive criticism, is a government that is actually able to perform even better. So I think they should see civil society as an ally, not as an enemy, and they need to just find a way of cooperating, collaborating and partnering genuinely with civil society, and also understanding that even in their cooperation with civil society will remain civil society. They will never be consumed by the government. They will never be followers of the government. They will sometimes challenge them, criticize them, make them feel quite uncomfortable, and that's a good thing if we want to grow. With the Gen Zs, I think Gen Zs are just saying that, look, we've heard where we are coming from as a country.
Yes.
And where you're going is not where we want to go.
Yeah.
This is where we want to go ourselves as a country. This is what we think is best for our country.
Yes.
And that future is not necessarily a shared future.
Yes.
I have always argued that politicians live in a very different realities from ordinary wananchi. Gen Zs live in a different reality from everyone else because they are the occupants of the future.
Yes.
They're telling you that future you are creating for us, that is not the future we want. This is the future that way. Unfortunately, we have policy makers who feel uncomfortable with being told the truth, with being criticized, with being challenged. And then they start seeing people who are protesting, or people who are making certain demands, or people who are raising certain issues and raising concerns, raising their voices, people who are speaking up as people who are not doing the right thing. So I think we need to pay keen attention to what civil society is saying. We need to pay more keen attention to what Gen Zs are saying, because they are saying we want real change. We want a different country. We want a more inclusive country. We want a country free of corruption. We want a country where we are not going to be like our they say they are not their parents, and they are not the other generation. I am a millennial, actually. They say they are not millennials. What they are saying is that, look, millennials left universities, came out, there are no jobs. We are not going to suffer the same fate. This is the kind of country that we need to build, and we need to listen to them, pay attention to their needs and concerns, and their, see their reality as different from ours, and we shouldn't see them as people who are being subversive.